All right, thanks for coming. This has been exciting 2 years here, very different 2 years from our experience here, but winning the back-to-back SEC championships and national championship last year obviously was very exciting, and to again be a part of the process and continue to learn here. I think that sitting up here a year ago, it was okay. You're going into year two, and now you're going into year three, and so I was kind of thinking this week about it that really there's so much to learn here. When I first said, I was kind of like I was a GA, just taking notes in staff meetings, and I think it's kind of like a player sometimes where a freshman comes in the sophomore year, junior year, and you see the players really start to continue to grow and understand why things are done the way they are. And I kind of feel that way. I feel like continuing to learn, continuing to grow under coach, and it's really such a great experience to see all the things that happen in the program with our players, how he handles it, all the different situations. Because if you're just around for 1 year, I don't think you get to experience all the different things. So excited to go into this third year with a lot of challenges on offense, replacing a quarterback again for the third year in a row. And we've been fortunate to have two guys that played really well and the guys around them. So that'll be a big challenge for us. And I think everybody knows about Derek and Kenyon losing, I think, two of the top three running backs drafted and having to replace them, and that'll be very difficult. But I think the center is going to be extremely hard to replace no matter who's there because, as you can see, being the first guy drafted, which I don't think a lot of people would have thought a year ago on our team with all the great players, shows how valuable he was to our guys around him and to both quarterbacks as well.
Start up here with Mark.
I want to touch on one of your receivers, Robert Foster. What can he bring to this offense when healthy?
Yeah, I think people forget, as great as Calvin Ridley was last year, and I think 89 catches he had, Calvin actually was backing up Robert when Robert got hurt. So to see Robert really develop, I wasn't here for the first year when he redshirted, but his redshirt freshman year, kind of like we just talked about, continuing to learn, grow in the program, part of the process, and then to end up starting last year, scores a touchdown in the opener, and I think he would have had a great season had he not got hurt. Very special skill set as far as speed and ability to get on top of the coverage downfield, and if he's healthy, I think he'll not only he play well, but he will help the guys around him.
Go far side with Matt.
Lane, two questions. First of all, facing USC, what comes to mind for you when you think about facing USC?
Yeah, I know this sounds strange. I really have not thought a lot about it. You would think that I have, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't matter. That's down the road, and the processes today and what's going on and how we can get better today. Because you really don't worry about it. We're not preparing for them. We're not game planning for them. We're just trying to get our players better and figure out our own depth chart. Now, later on, that week when we get into it, I'm sure there'll be some, different feelings, emotions, but I really haven't thought about it much.
And second question, Blake Barnett, where have you seen him change since the spring, and where does he need to continue to get better to be a legitimate factor in this competition?
Yeah, I think when Blake first got here, he was performing extremely well. And really, there were times we were thinking that he was really in the battle last year to be the guy. And like normal, when you're a freshman, kind of went up and down through some practices and scrimmages. And then really, I think he would tell you too, did not have his best spring. And he really had a great offseason. He had some health issues where he had lost some weight, gained weight back. He's bigger, stronger than he's been. And through a couple of days, he looks really good and looks really strong, very quick feet, and continuing to grow in the offense. So we're very excited about where he's at.
Cecil.
You've had less time with Jalen Hurts, but having one spring with him and then I guess the work in the summer, how has he progressed? And for a guy who was supposed to be in high school, I guess, last spring, what are your impressions of him?
Yeah, I think that's a good point in the high school. Everybody comes watch spring, and you guys watch it, and spring games and stuff. We realize these guys, all these mid-years are really seniors in high school, like Jonah Williams, who's the starting right tackle, and he struggles in the game. Well, we got to remember, he's a senior in high school. These other guys are going to prom. So Jalen really, to come in, I think if you come in as a mid-year and you perform well at all, you're going to be pretty good, because most of the guys will struggle a lot. And very, very special skill set, very strong kid, one of our top lifters in strength, 40s, vertical. And so he's just continuing to learn a completely new system from what he was in high school. And that transition for all players, especially quarterbacks, is difficult. But he's handling it really well, and we're really excited about what he's done and some of the plays that he makes that are really not in rhythm plays because of his ability, to make big plays.
Here in the middle with Alex.
This is kind of an offbeat question, but I wanted to ask you, we've seen a little bit more interaction on social media from you. And so what's your personal approach to Twitter, dealing with social media, and do you kind of get some sort of joy out of some of the Bitmojis you put out there and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I don't really run my Twitter or social media. Coach Saban runs it. And it really is just where we're at, with the generation of kids we're recruiting, and, to interact with them, to interact with my own children, it's just kind of where we're at. And that's really how a lot of recruits communicate, and really is until they changed where we could text kids a couple months ago. That was really our easiest way to be able to interact with them. So, I don't necessarily really like parts of it, because I'd rather just be doing ball. But that's part of recruiting as an assistant coach and where we're at.
Okay. Second row with Tony.
Lane, as you get deeper into camp, do you get to the point where you need to cut it down to 2 or 3, because it's hard to rep? It's hard to rep 4 guys that deep into camp, particularly when you get closer to game week.
Yeah, well, we've had that problem, Tony, before. We're actually, in that same area where there was 4 a year ago. Could have a chance. Now there's 4 again. So we would always like to be the 1. That's the best thing. So, but we don't want to eliminate anything, because this has been a very strange quarterback competition over the 2 years. You guys watching scrimmages or games, even ourselves as staff, if you took a poll at times 2 or 3 weeks before the openers last 2 years, it would be mixed on who was going to be the starter. And there were times that, a guy that maybe was 3 or 4, we thought was 1 that week, and then he'd go in and not play as well, and a guy 3 or 4 would play better. So there's no timetable for it, because you got to make sure you find the right guy. And I think if we would have had a timetable, we may have not found the right guy, in the last 2 years.
A couple more. John, Zena.
I had 2 questions. One, you've been around 2 head coaches in your career who made a habit of winning 11, 12, 13 games a year. How hard is it to not just to reach that level, but to stay there?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, with Coach Carroll and Coach Saban. And people always ask what it's like, how are they alike? And they're extremely different in almost everything, okay? But the one thing that they do have is they have a belief system of how they do what they do, and everything that happens, they have the answer to. And it really doesn't change. And both guys, the second thing that both guys have in common is they're phenomenal recruiters, as you can see in the draft picks when we're at USC and now here, because obviously great players help. But you're right. Used to always say anybody can do something one time, have a great year because everything goes right. But can you maintain it and sustain it for a long period of time, as Coach Carroll's done before, and now Coach Saban? It really is remarkable. And I think in today's game, and no disrespect to coaches a long time ago, it's harder nowadays because of the numbers, because of the scholarship numbers, because of kids' ability to transfer. We have less kids, and so the margin for error, when we miss on kids, they're going to the people that we play, versus when you could take 40 or 50 kids in a class. So I think it's unbelievable what Coach Carroll did, and now the run that Coach Saban did, it really is remarkable.
And follow up, a different kind of question, but just between us, would you get some satisfaction, a little extra pleasure, if you guys can beat USC, given how things
There's
ended?
like 10 cameras back there, and we're going to say something just between us. No, I really have not thought much about it, and it won't be about me, just like it wasn't about me when we were at Tennessee. It's not about Coach when we go to LSU. It's about our players playing really well, and all we can do is put our players in the best position to win.
Last one here with Michael. We got to get Coach to step.
I want to ask about running back depth first, and secondly, do you enjoy kind of some of the fun you have on Twitter with some of the pictures and the things referencing some of the previous places you coached?
What was the first question? Running back depth, a big challenge for us. Really, all of our running backs are young. I think every running back scholarship running back on our roster is a freshman or sophomore, which is a very strange situation because of the 3 great backs we've had the last 2 years. So that's just another challenge that we have. Again, hopefully the recruiting that Coach Saban has done, that we have a lot of talent. Now it's our job to get those guys ready to play. And I would think it would be more of a shared role. I think last year was very unique to have a guy carry the ball 90 times in a 7-day span. I don't know that I've ever heard of that before. So that was a very special player. I don't know that anybody could do that, and that's because of his build, but the way that Derek worked every day in practice. So he's a story for years and years and years for these guys to continue to tell and pass down, because that guy, just like the year before with Amari, those were our best players each year, but those are our hardest workers. All right, I'm skipping the other one. All right, thanks, guys.